Thank you for watching this recording of the CEN and CENELEC Effectiveness and Efficiency Review National Consultation in the UK. This is a recording and not live, so if you wish to submit further comments or questions, please use the link on the screen now. Thank you very much. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this live webinar from the centre of London. I hope you had a great weekend. It's very hot and sunny outside behind me in the central London, and what I hope we can do today is to engage with you in terms of our national stakeholder consultation on the CEN and CENELEC project. What I want to do is to talk through the proposals that are coming out of the CEN and CENELEC STEER project and to seek your feedback on those. What we're trying to do today is to provide you with information and get your thoughts about the proposed changes to the governance structures of CEN and CENELEC. Those proposals have come out of the STEER project, the System Efficiency and Effectiveness Review, which is a project that's been running now for over a year. The timing that we're engaged with today is that we're trying to complete a national consultation. The other countries around Europe are carrying out similar consultations with their stakeholders. We will collate that information together over the summer, and that will inform any final recommendations that we make to the boards and ultimately the administrative assemblies of CEN and CENELEC later in the year. So this is an important part of the process. We wanted to make sure everybody was involved. First of all, I really want to talk about the background to the CEN and CENELEC Efficiency Review. This is a project which the two standards organisations have been engaged with for at least 18 months now. It was an ambition of the members to look for improvements to our system. It's in the context of the wider European initiatives. There's a joint initiative carrying on at the moment with the Commission. And it was very urgent that many of the members felt that we should look at our own internal systems and see whether we could improve the way that we worked to become more effective and efficient. And in particular, there are some emerging new issues which we need to address around convergence of technology, standards in the ICT space, a range of subjects where it's very important that we are getting coherent and rapid strategic discussions and decisions around how to engage our experts in these fields. We can see some of the reasons for addressing the subject. So the convergence of technology, a main issue. We know that there are some systemic problems within our systems. We have identified those over the last year. There were 3 working groups involved in this process, a working group 1 on governance, a working group 2 on technical issues, and a working group 3 on the systems model. And each of those working groups has been asked to generate some outputs. The steering group of the STEER project, which is co-chaired by myself and Wim de Kezel, the Vice-President Policy for CENELEC, have prepared a consultation pack, of which these slides are part, to consult with our national stakeholders. So the ambition, the drivers behind the STEER project were for the two organisations, CEN and CENELEC, to serve their stakeholders more efficiently, to improve the decision-making processes within and between the organisations, and particularly to strengthen the relationship with the two major stakeholders, industry on the one hand and the European Commission on the other. So we know that standards are by industry, for industry, but under the Regulation 1025 we have obligations towards the full range of stakeholders, societal stakeholders, the labour community, environmental organisations, and of course the relationship with the Commission, vital to ensuring that European standards are used consistently alongside regulation to deliver a European policy. So with these drivers behind us, we need to just examine again whether we are operating as effectively and efficiently as we can. There were some basic requirements that the members and national committees of CEN and CENELEC wanted to put in place right at the outset. And these were, firstly, that there are two separate independent organisations and they shall remain separate and independent organisations. And that's for very, very good reason, not just history, but also the context of the concept of a European standardization organisation, a European standards organisation, an ESO, requires the two organisations to remain independent. So we also wanted to ensure that the general meetings, the annual general meetings and the councils of CEN and CENELEC should continue in their separate structures, and that we should continue to share a secretariat and administration, which we know as CCMC. So with these basic requirements and boundary conditions, if you like, for the STEER project, there were four objectives which were shaped for the discussion. And they were, as I said earlier, to focus on the relationship with industry, to ensure that we have a strong and successful relationship with industry, to ensure we have a strong and coherent relationship with the European Commission, and then to improve our direct links with industry at all levels, not dissimilar to our first objective, but perhaps more tactical in its implications. And then fundamentally to aim to reduce duplication of resources and activity and to enhance coordination between the two organisations. This is an effect that's been called ping pong, a huge waste of time and effort as the two organisations take decisions on the one hand to do this and then a day later on the other hand to do something slightly differently, and then months pass as we try to resolve this subtle difference in the resolution. So these sort of inefficiencies seem rather a waste of time and effort, and if we could improve that, so much the better. So these are the four objectives, and what I'd like to do now is just to talk through some of the outputs and map them against those objectives. So firstly, effective new relationships with industry. Objective number one. In the proposals, it is suggested that we should create a high-level industry advisory forum. That will be a community with European associations and organisations on it, potentially formed and reformed depending on the issues that it needs to discuss, but directly engaging with industry at a policy level. So a community which is able to address emerging issues of policy and provide guidance to the CEN and CENELEC boards about strategic direction. And secondly, there's a proposal from the technical area to create the opportunity for sector structures within areas where industry feels it is capable and interested to take responsibility for some of its own standardization activity. We see a very strong community, of course, in the electrotechnical space already, but it's entirely possible that other sectors might also have ambitions to create some form of sector structure themselves with delegated authority to carry out aspects of standardization work. So with delegated powers from the technical boards and direct industry representation, the concept of a sector coordination committee will be there for people to use if they wish. Objective number two is around the relationship with the European Commission. And here the Commission is a kind of special kind of stakeholder, of course. We want to be sure that we're addressing their needs and requests in an efficient way. And we want to do that through more joint working. So the outcome from Working Group 1 in particular on the governance arrangements was to have a joint sessions of the CEN and CENELEC CAs as the default position to agree a common policy and approach on common issues, but to retain the two separate CAs where there are separate matters that the two boards of the organisations need to discuss independently. We already work with a joint finance committee, or rather two finance committees working jointly, meeting at the same time, the two vice presidents finance co-chairing that meeting alternately. And so perhaps we should be pushing that further into the area of policy, where the two policy committees, my own policy committee in CEN and Vim's policy committee in CENELEC, already meet jointly and separately, and we should be encouraging those committees to meet jointly as the rule, and meeting separately when they have specific issues to discuss which don't require input from the other community. So joint structures is a proposal to improve the relationship. And then a new idea, which is to create a joint standardization board to coordinate strategic technical matters of common interest. This is particularly an issue around emerging technologies, new areas, convergent technology, horizontal structures, where it's important to quickly and efficiently identify the experts, where should the lead come, who should take charge, how can we get on and address this matter, which is a cross-cutting issue, as efficiently as possible. So a joint standardization board is supposed to be a strategic technical group which will allow a common approach to be developed as rapidly as possible. In Objective 3, again, improving direct links with industry at strategic, technical and strategic policy level. The recommendations that I've already described around sector structures, or what are called here on the slide sector coordination committees, including potentially direct representation from industry and delegated powers from the technical boards, would feed into this objective, as would the concept of an industry advisory forum, an IAF, advising CEN and CENELEC on policy issues. That group probably not being a standing group, but being formed and reformed depending on the policy issues that CEN and CENELEC are wishing to consult on. And our fourth objective, to reduce the duplication of resources and activity, the efficiency objective, if you will, again addressed by these same outputs, the idea of an industry advisory forum, the idea of sector structures where these can be market-led, the idea of common sessions, joint meetings, joint sessions of the CAs, and joint structures for the policy and finance areas, and a joint standardization board to coordinate strategic technical matters. So in essence, you see here on this slide the five basic changes that have been proposed. These are quite modest in their reach in terms of statutes and so on. They're readily implemented, and indeed in some of these we're already doing this in some respect. I'm not sure how familiar or how much you enjoy wiring diagrams, but it was suggested that a diagram might be helpful to illustrate this. And here you see in this diagram the two AGs of CEN and CENELEC separately, the two CAs meeting in common session, and then common structures for the policy and finance areas. So let's see what we're going to get online. So if I could ask whether we've got questions, and I'm going to try and read the question off the queue here. These are questions that you're being sending in through that email link live@bsigroup.com. How is this going to benefit my industry? I've got a question on the screen here. So let's imagine you're the construction industry. Well, it's entirely possible that you are looking for more opportunity to address issues like building information modeling, the digital environment, convergence of technology, energy efficiency, cross-cutting issues, smart technology in housing, for example, where there are cross-cutting issues that need to be addressed quite rapidly for the built environment and those communities. So the concept of a joint standardization board would allow us to introduce senior experts who can quickly and effectively make decisions around the most powerful models for addressing, for example, smart infrastructure, the convergence of the smart city work with building information modeling, any areas where there are cross-cutting or convergent issues. Similarly, if you were in the medical space, then the convergence of software solutions and technology will be an issue for you too. Second question, will there be an increased engagement with government to promote standardization? That sounds to me a bit of a national question, and I think the answer to that is an emphatic yes. The advantage for the STEER project is that the efficiency of the two common groups meeting together, the two CAs, for example, meeting together, is that we have a common perspective to address the European government structures. So whether that's the Parliament or the Commission, we can address that in a coherent and consistent way. Increasing numbers of questions being raised about the role of the Commission in ICT standardization, for example, and in service sector. So our engagement with the European government structures is extremely important. In the national context, I see this opportunity as very important because it will enable us to have a more strategic approach to our engagement with the UK government and UK government departments on your behalf to make sure that we've got the right structures in place. The more senior and strategic input we can get on this, the better. Well, while you think about questions, we have some questions of our own. I'm very excited about the concept of an industry advisory forum, but I've also had experience of these sorts of high-level structures before. It's extremely difficult to get chief executives of enterprises from any sector to participate in an industrial forum of any sort more than once. So there will be questions to be answered around who and how should an industry advisory forum be constituted. Should it be pulled together as needed and when, rather than formally constituted, and how and who should sit on it. We would not want to create another talking shop where people come together and feel their time's been wasted. We would like, in an industry advisory forum, to engage with the right people on a strategic level as directly and effectively as possible. But if you have views about how or who should participate in an industry advisory forum, that would be extremely helpful. It is possible that we should have direct representation from industry, and we would certainly expect industry associations and European industry associations to participate at a senior level on questions that affected them. I've got a question here around the Presidential Committee. As you know, in the structure, and perhaps we can move to that slide, in the wiring diagram, you see at the top there the two General Assemblies of CEN and CENELEC, independent organisations, therefore independent assemblies. And you see the box in the middle that's called the PC, which in fact met last week, and then together also with ETSI in what's called the Joint Presidents Group. So the role of the PC for me is to provide guidance and leadership for the whole structure. The PC comprises the presidents of CEN and CENELEC, the vice presidents of CEN and CENELEC, and it's for that community to look at the agendas, help to provide guidance as to what's a common issue, what's not a common issue, and help to ensure that the structures keep rolling on smoothly. Actions are followed up and recommendations pursued. So deciding on common issues, deciding on the agendas, and so on. So a good example of how the PC works last week was around the societal stakeholder recommendations coming from societal stakeholders group, and the PCs providing some leadership for that, encouraging the societal stakeholders group to continue to improve the recognition of those Annex 3 organisations. Another question I have on the screen: how will this improve the collaboration between CEN and CENELEC? Well, lots of ways that this will improve the collaboration of CEN and CENELEC. The challenges that we face at the moment are very much around the ping-pong effect of two organisations working alongside each other, but taking decisions and then taking slightly different decisions, often with the same people involved. So the collaboration, which is already very successful at the vice presidential level, will be able to be seen in reality at the board level and then within the sector structures. And we anticipate that will be hugely beneficial to improve mutual understanding, to improve trust, and to improve efficiency. It is very frustrating when seen from a perspective of BSI, looking firstly at a CEN structure and then a CENELEC decision, to see the same decision with slightly different wording within it, because it provides a challenge. Even though the spirit is common, it provides a challenge in its immediate implementation. So trying to encourage all common issues to be addressed in common discussion between CEN and CENELEC is going to generate huge improvements in efficiency. So I've got another question on the screen, which is: how will this improve engagement with small businesses? Well, that's an excellent question. So small businesses are represented both at national level through their national structures and also at European level, and the European organisations help to address that. The opportunity for small businesses to participate and for their views to be heard are limited at present, and these proposals will seek to improve that, both through the Industry Advisory Forum, where issues like the value of standards to small businesses can be addressed at a policy level, and through the sector structures, where again the role of small businesses can be addressed in a niche and effective way, will be a benefit. I would also hope that the standardization board itself will provide a more strategic opportunity for small businesses and associations to benefit from standards. I've got another question now on the screen, which is: how will this improve the speed of development for standards? Well, the Common Standards Board, the idea of a Common Standardization Board, is intended very much to direct immediately the right experts into the right space, the right committee leadership, and the right community. So much of our standardization work now involves multiple multidisciplinary subjects, and we're trying very hard to stop the ping-pong between the two BTs, the technical boards, that this concept of a Common Standardization Board will help at a strategic level address the issues we face here. So when we think of nearly all products and services now being a composition of different technologies, different issues, different consumer issues, different user issues, different regulatory requirements, it's increasingly important that we have a strategic approach to those boards and those decisions, so that we can get the speed question addressed. There's a strong mood that speed is not everything, that the quality of the standards must come foremost, but avoiding the wastage of time from ping-pong or from people setting off down a path which is unguided would be a great advantage. We are sure also that the sector structures, the opportunity to create a sector structure, will help to determine an approach that matches stakeholder needs more effectively. So if we think of, I mentioned earlier, possibly a built environment type sector, but there already are, of course, very powerful sector interests in the electrotechnical and electronic industry community, but there could be other spaces too. So I've got a question here which is about improving the links with ISO and with IEC. The relationship between CEN and ISO and CENELEC and IEC are fundamental to the European standardization system, and I would expect that an industry advisory forum will provide a more coherent policy input from industry, and the Common Standardization Board will provide a more rapid strategic response to new issues as they arise. That will inform and assist the work that CEN and CENELEC separately undertake with ISO and IEC respectively, looking all the time for more cooperation between the standardization activities, the systems approach in IEC, and new sectors like smart cities and how that's coordinated. So improving the coordination at the European regional level between CEN and CENELEC will be of great benefit to our relationships with ISO and IEC. We are, after all, in CEN and CENELEC making standards in relation to the single market. Our policy is international first. We are looking to make the global standards first using European expertise and bring those back into Europe as we see fit. So our ambition here is to maintain very strong relationships and strong influence within the ISO and IEC community. And these proposals will help to strengthen that. This is a national consultation, and we are discussing improvements to the structures of CEN and CENELEC to improve their efficiency and effectiveness. But here in the UK, we are, of course, in the middle of a substantial debate around the EU referendum to be held on the 23rd of June. And BSI and standards and trade have come increasingly into the news. BSI and the group board need to maintain a neutral position on this. We are, as you know, independent of government, industry and society, but very keen that we maintain that the facts around European standards and the UK are being honoured and respected and understood. So in that respect, we have published a statement on European standards in the UK, which you can download from the BSI website. Another question that's just come in is around ETSI. So ETSI is the Telecom Standards Organisation. It is the third of the 3 European ESOs. ETSI I met with last week during the Joint Presidents Group session. ETSI is not involved in the STEER project. CEN and CENELEC work very closely together with a common back office in Brussels, and which coordinates our work across the 33 countries participating in those organisations through the national committees and through the national standards bodies. ETSI has a slightly different membership structure. BSI, on your behalf, is both a national member and a full member of ETSI, but is not connected to the STEER project. CEN and CENELEC are member organisations, and these are the proposals that are being made today to reflect this ambition. It's for the members of CEN and CENELEC to come up with new solutions for efficiency and effectiveness. So we have some questions on the IAF. That's the Industry Advisory Forum. Will there be a terms of reference, and what will the constitution be? Well, it's an interesting moment when you propose an Industry Advisory Forum. On the one hand, you say, well, we don't quite know what it's going to look like yet. We'd like to know if we think it's a good idea. On the other hand, if we were to ask the steering group of STEER to develop 2 detailed terms of reference at this stage, you might suggest that that was not helpful, that they were in some sense inadequate. So there will be terms of reference for an industry advisory forum, and those terms of reference will be built upon the feedback that we're getting now, both from the UK and from the other countries. It will be very helpful to have your views on the structures and terms of reference for an industry advisory forum. I mentioned earlier on that, for example, the industry advisory forum might be quite fluid. It might be a group which is constituted on an ad hoc basis to address specific issues, or it might be formally constituted. I feel myself that I think it would be better to address issues at that level with senior people on an issue-by-issue basis, and therefore it should be constituted in quite a fluid manner. Standing committees in that space tend to find things that they want to do rather than address questions that we, the community, want them to address. So the answer to this is that we're asking today on your input, your feedback on whether it's a good idea in principle or not. The feedback that we're getting is it is a good idea. Given that it's a good idea and the feedback's positive, then I would encourage us to the next stage to develop terms of reference which we can address in more detail. So our hour is approaching. We have no more questions online. I thank you very much indeed for participating. Let me just remind you of the process as we go forward from here. All the countries whose members are members of CEN CENELEC are carrying out a similar consultation. We have asked them to use the same questions, and we have asked them to submit their responses through a common template so that we can collate them readily. We're pleased already that we've got positive feedback. These proposals are not hugely structural. They're more operational, and I hope you would welcome them. But then from here on, you may go online, and we need to, I'd encourage you to go online and submit any detailed responses you have on our DRS system. If you can do that by the 13th of May, that would be very helpful. I would ask you in any event to do it by the 31st of May so that we can get a good national picture on the changes that are being proposed. And just to pursue the direction from there on, once we have the consultation at a national level, we will merge it with consultation feedback at the European level. We will engage with specific stakeholders directly, the associations, for example, the European Commission, and any other stakeholders that need to be walked through these changes. We will do that face to face as best we can with as many of them as possible. And the intention then is that the steering group, again led by Wim de Kezel, Vice-President Policy for CENELEC, and myself, we will take that forward and bring it back to the CAs later in the year. And if there are changes that need to go to the AGs at CEN and CENELEC, we would hope to have those ready for November 2016, later this year. In parallel with all of this activity, there is a model for a proposal from the third working group of the STEER project to carry out a system analysis of the CEN and CENELEC stakeholder system. That is a proposal that will cost some money and is to be carried out in parallel with this national consultation activity. So we are hoping that through experts in system modelling, we can come up with a useful tool to look at the nuts and bolts of the system and to understand the levers and opportunities that we can use to demonstrate a quantitative improvement in the efficiency and effectiveness of CEN and CENELEC. You might ask finally why CEN and CENELEC need to be separate. My own view is that we have a huge amount of work to do to improve innovation across Europe, to lead and influence international standards, to address cross-cutting technologies, horizontal issues, the whole question of public trust in industry and business, the rise of the digital economy, software solutions, and the smart environment generally, Industry 4.0 or the fourth industrial revolution, the Internet of Things, health, education, welfare, so much to do and so little time. There is absolutely no point in attempting to bring CEN and CENELEC together as a single organisation. Fundamentally, they are two organisations with a proud history that work side by side in a common and effective way. They are both recognised under Regulation 1025 as independent organisations, and so they should continue. So our ambition here is to simply improve the cooperative character of the closer working of these two fine and historic European standards organisations that have done so much in the last years to improve industry's effectiveness in Europe and indeed across the world. So again, I would like to thank you very much. We have, as I said earlier, a deadline of the 31st of May for our national consultation feedback. I'd encourage you to try and meet that through the DRS system. You are always welcome, anybody, to contact us directly at BSI if you wish, and we will talk you through and help you through these changes that are being proposed. But our ambition is very much that we will end up with a faster, more responsive, and more industry relevant combination of organisations. So again, I will conclude this morning. It's a lovely sunny day out behind me, and thank you all very much for your feedback and for your questions. We will make sure that we've picked all of those up, and we will be incorporating your feedback into our template and into our official response to the CEN and CENELEC consultation process this summer. Thank you all very much, and have a very good day. Goodbye.